Welcome to The Angle, your hub for all things in the sports betting world. Now, here is your host, Dylan Lieck.
Welcome into The Angle, a new video segment that I'm going to be doing here on the Slobberknocker Sports Network. I'm your host, Dylan Lieck, and today what we're going to be bringing you is some betting advice. And we are going to expand into all areas of the betting world, but we'll start with college football for our first edition of The Angle. And we're going to start with a couple of different segments. Essentially, my goal here is to just give everybody some advice and some help to improve your sports betting. And I'm going to give my picks for the week. I'm going to give my college football advice on some of the big games. And I'm going to break down some of the sharp action, or as they call it, pro money, and where that money has been so far this week and where I think might be a great place to invest your money on this college football Saturday. And we're going to start with my first best investment opportunity of the weekend on this college football Saturday. And we are going to go to Florida, and we're going to look at the Central Florida Knights taking on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Now, the line opened at 3. In full disclosure, I did get this one at +3 already. I think it is worth it in this spot, although I'm not a proponent of buying points all that often. If you can get +3 on the buy at -123 or better, I like Central Florida in this spot. I still like them at +2.5, and I think there's some value on the money line, but I would prefer to have the 3 if I could. So if you can get +3 at -123 or better, I would go ahead and buy the half a point there. Looking at this matchup, Oklahoma State comes in winning 5 straight games. They've won four of those 5 wins have come at home, though. Very fortunate schedule for the Cowboys. In their 2 true road games in the Big 12, they are 1-1. And when you look at that, the last road game they had was a couple weeks ago at West Virginia. And that was a game where the Cowboys were trailing by 4 late in the game. Oklahoma State was a 3-point underdog in that spot at West Virginia. West Virginia is getting the ball back as Oklahoma State's punting. Oki State trailing by 4, middle of the fourth, early fourth, about 10 minutes to go. West Virginia player runs into the kick returner, so 2 players on West Virginia collide. The ball clips one of the players. Oklahoma State recovers, and a few plays later, they're going in to score. So you have a huge flip in the game. If West Virginia gets the ball back in a game that they've pretty much been ahead the majority of the game, they are now up 4 with the ball, chance to essentially go on a long drive and end it. West Virginia goes 4, 5, 6-minute drive there, scores a touchdown, goes up 11 with under 5 minutes to play. That one's very high percentage. West Virginia wins the game. And Oki State's defense had not been great to that point. Instead, the fumble gives Oklahoma State not only the lead, but lots of momentum. And then when West Virginia goes 3 and out on the next possession, Ollie Gordon scores 2 more massive runs, touchdown runs over 50 yards, and the game gets away. And there's kind of like a wild sequence of lots of points late in the game. Regardless, West Virginia should have won that game. Oklahoma State really should be 0-2 in true road games in the Big 12 this year so far. That really flipped the game. But let's look at the Oklahoma game last week. So obviously Oklahoma State upset OU, and it was a massive win for the program. They though were outgained by Oklahoma, 492 to 480. Not a bad, right? Only 12 yards, but from a yards per play standpoint, Oklahoma outgained Oki State by 1.8 yards per play. 7.7 yards per play for Oklahoma, just 5.9 for Oki State. OU also converted a higher percentage of third downs. They averaged more yards per pass and more yards per rush. So they significantly dominated the game. They were the more efficient team overall. What was the difference in the game? Oklahoma had 3 turnovers, and they were 0 of 2 on 4th down. So essentially you have 5 different possessions where you come away with 0 points because of a turnover or a turnover on downs. There was also a massive missed pass interference call late in that game as Oklahoma was driving down 6 to try to win the game, and just a complete missed call on Stoops in the end zone. He was tackled by an Oklahoma State cornerback. The call was not made, and then Venables made a horrible decision to, instead of going for it late, he kicked a field goal. And they did get the ball back, but were unable to go score. I think you have to go for try to score a touchdown there under 5 minutes to go in college. I don't think you play for 2 possessions there. But again, Oklahoma State, they've kind of been very fortunate, right? Fortunate to win the Oklahoma game last week. They're fortunate to win that West Virginia game. They've not been great on the road. Then we look at Central Florida. Central Florida's 4-5, right? But they were missing their starting quarterback, John Mason Plumlee, 4 games this year. So 4 of their 9 games, they've been missing their starting quarterback. And in about week 5, they had an epic collapse against Baylor at home. They were taking on the Bears. They were leading by 29 points going into the fourth quarter. Massive meltdown, and the Bears end up winning the game by 36-35. One of the biggest choke jobs I've ever seen. And then you see, the following week, Central Florida has to go to Kansas to take on the Jayhawks, who are also a ranked team this year, now number 16 in the country. And it's kind of one of those classic games where one loss turns into 2. That collapse, they just couldn't recover from it. And now you're playing a good team on the road, and all you're thinking about is how you gave one away the week before, right? That was supposed to be their first Big 12 win. So they end up blowing 2 games. So, kind of spiral there. But Plumlee's back. They got their first Big 12 win last week against Cincinnati. Got that monkey off their back. And since Plumlee's come back, they've looked much better. They played OU a few weeks ago. Oklahoma was a big favorite going into that one at home in Norman. And Central Florida damn near won the game outright. They had a 2-point conversion with under a minute to go that would have been to tie the game that they did not complete. So, all those things equal, the records and the way these teams have looked, they're not that big of a difference, right? You would think ranked team, 7-2 versus unranked 4-5 team who has 1 conference win should be right, like 7, 8, 9 point spread. Yet we sit at 2.5. And a lot of it is what I just explained. The second thing is the spot. And this is a huge game for Central Florida for 2 reasons. Number 1, in order to get bowl eligible, they need to win 2 of their final 3 games. This would go a long way to do that, right? If you lose this, you now have to win your last 2. You win this one, you only need 1 of the last 2. And a bowl game might not sound like a lot, but for a team transitioning to the Big 12, trying to gain some momentum and get some recruits, missing a bowl game in the first year would be a bad look, especially when you have a game that you blow where you have a 29-point lead earlier in the year to a bad Baylor team. So big opportunity here. Secondly this is their giant killing opportunity, right? They're not playing for a Big 12 title. They have no chance to even have a winning record in conference. So their only thing they're playing for is 1, a bowl, but 2, this is their chance to spoil someone's season. Oklahoma State now sits in the driver's seat to play against Texas in the Big 12 title game. If both those 2 teams win out, that's going to be the Big 12 title game, Texas and Oklahoma State. And this is the chance for Central Florida to be the spoiler, play spoiler and knock Oki State off. On the other side, this is a horrific spot for Oklahoma State, right? So think about the emotional nature of last week's game. You play your rival at home. It's the last time you guys are going to play in this historic rivalry for who knows how long, right? Because Oklahoma's departing for the SEC. Then you have the fact that Mike Gundy, your coach, has only beaten Oklahoma. That was the 3rd time he's ever beaten OU, ever. It's only the 2nd time in the past decade that the Oki State Cowboys have beaten the Sooners in that rivalry. It's a rivalry that's largely been dominated by Oklahoma all time. So you get this emotional win. It's a 60-minute football game. It comes down to the wire. You've played really good football 5 weeks straight, and it culminates with this big emotional rivalry game. And you win, and you had to really get up for this one. You were not the better team in the game. You got outgained, like we said, 1.8 yards per play in the game. But you find a way to win. Storm the field, super high, right? Now you got to travel on the road to a place that's not very close. You're traveling all the way to Florida, different time zone, right? Now you're playing against a team who's got 1 win in conference. You're not playing against OU where you're trying to pull the upset. Now you are the team trying to avoid the upset, right? Whereas Central Florida's trying to pull the upset. And there's not going to be all your fans there. It's not going to be the same type of fun, exciting environment. It's going to be hard for Oklahoma State to get up for this game. It's a big flat spot for the Cowboys. And it also fits my model, which is playing against a team after a big emotional game, win or loss. And you look at it. I looked at this earlier in the year. If you look at the 6 teams that played each other, there was 3 games in which 2 top 10 teams faced off. They were undefeated, and they were facing off each undefeated, each in the top 10. If you faded those teams the week after their game, win or loss, you would have gone 6-0 this year. Texas and Oklahoma following the Red River rivalry, Oregon and Washington following their massive matchup, and then Penn State and Ohio State following theirs. If you faded all 6 of those teams after their biggest games, you would be 6-0. This doesn't quite fit the exact mold, but it's the same idea, right? Emotional game into a flat spot. And that's what this is. It's a huge flat spot. And then you look at just the market, right? What is the market telling us? The market's sitting at 2.5. So you're telling me that the public, and this is a classic pros versus Joes game, right? Central Florida is going to be the pro side, and you have Oklahoma State going to be the Joes side, right? Every Joe on Saturday, every college football Saturday bettor in the sportsbook in Vegas is going to walk to that window with an Oklahoma State ticket and take 2.5. I can lay less than a field goal with a ranked team who's 7-2 versus a 4-5 Central Florida team, and that makes sense. And it's not saying that these games, when you take the dog, always win. But whenever these games look too good to be true, whenever the line looks too good, whenever it feels like, man, Vegas must know something that we don't, that's when that line tends to be right. And I think Central Florida pulls the outright upset here. I think Central Florida wins by 4 to 7 points. I don't think the points matter that much, but at a key number of 3, like I said, if you can get good enough value, to me, my numbers say minus 123 or better, I'm taking the +3. I got it at minus 110 early in the week. But if you can get minus 123 or better, I would buy the 0.5 point. Either way, give me the Central Florida Golden Knights plus the 3 at home. They're going to win outright over Oklahoma State. Our second best investment opportunity for this week is going to be a very similar game. And we are going to look to the Mountain West, where the San Jose State Spartans are taking on the Fresno State Bulldogs. The Spartans come in 4-5, similar to the Central Florida Golden Knights coming in. And they're taking on a Fresno State team who's 8-1, similar to the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And so, again, this line right now sits at a pick'em. Some spots have even moved San Jose State to the favorite. So what's going on here? Why is a 4-5 team favored over an 8-1 team? And I'm going to tell you why. My pick number 2 is going to be San Jose State. I got them at pick. I would like them up to -2 or money line. So San Jose State's 4-5, right? Here are their 5 losses. At USC, versus Oregon State, versus Air Force, at Toledo, and at Boise State. That is a very, very tough strength of schedule right there. So USC, Oregon State, and Air Force, those are all 3 top 25 teams. Currently, they've been top 25 teams all year. No shame in any of those losses, right? Then they lost to a Toledo team on the road, 21-17, who is 8-1 and is likely going to win their conference. So you have another really solid team that you lost to. And then the only other game they lost was at Boise State, one of the tougher places to play in that conference. Boise State, even though they're having a little bit of a down year, still a really tough home field advantage with an NFL running back on that team. And in that game, San Jose State actually led by 20 points and just kind of ran out of gas late. So, all 5 of those matchups are against decent to really good teams. There's no bad losses in that 4-5 record. And then you look at San Jose State as a team, right? Since that last loss to Boise State, they've won 3 straight games. Now, albeit against inferior competition, but in those 3 games, they've outscored their opponents a combined 129-45. That's an average margin of victory of 28 points per game. They're absolutely dominating opponents the last 3 games. They've played really, really well, both on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. Their quarterback, Chevin Cordero, in those 3 games has thrown 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Many people already believe this guy's one of the or the best quarterback in the Mountain West right now. On the season, because of a little bit lack of protection, it hasn't been outstanding, but he's still thrown for 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. So he's had a pretty solid year. He's also run the ball for 174 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. Then you look at the run game for San Jose State. The last 5 games, they've run for at least 4 yards per carry in every single game. They've run for at least 5 yards per carry in 3 of those 5 games. And overall, in the last 5 games, they've run it 171 times for 946 yards. That's 5.5 yards per carry and nearly 200 yards a contest, just under. So they've been a very balanced team, right? They have a very solid quarterback. He can throw. He's very accurate. A lot of people are very high on him. He can also run. Then you have a really good running game, averaging close to 200 yards a game in the past 5 games they've played. Very balanced offense. When you have teams that are balanced, they're hard to game plan for, right? Now let's look at Fresno State, because this is where it gets real interesting. Yes, they are 8-1, but again, that is deceiving, okay? Post-game win expectancy is a thing I like to look at. It's essentially the measure of how likely you are to win a game based on what happened, right? Like if a team wins a game and in winning the game they recovered 2 onside kicks and got a Hail Mary, their post-game win expectancy is going to be very small, right? Because in all likelihood, the odds of that happening when repeated over time are very low. So what happened in the game and who was likely to win the game based on that outcome, right? So you look at the post-game win expectancy for 8-1 Fresno State the last 3 games. Last week, they took on a Boise State team, and all full disclosure, I had a Boise State ticket. They were already getting the fortune of Boise State's top running back, who was supposed to play all week and had no injury designation, gets ruled out of that game about 10 minutes before kickoff. And so, huge loss for the Broncos. Their best offensive player, the main guy who runs their offense, who they run their offense through, he's out. Then you get all the things that happen in that game. Boise State turns the ball over 3 times. 2 of those times are inside the opponent 40. 1 is inside the opponent 10-yard line. You get, still, besides that happening, Boise State scores before halftime to cut the Fresno State lead to 3. And on the ensuing kickoff with 5 seconds to go, Malik Sherrod, the starting running back for Fresno, picks up the ball on a squib kick and takes it 97 yards for a touchdown, something you just don't see in college football anymore. There's just rarely kick returns for touchdowns. And then, after all that, Boise State still was able to come back, have a chance to get a stop and get the ball back and win the game. And as Fresno State's either going to have to punt or run the clock out, they bust a 56-yard run. This is a team that's one of the least explosive run teams in the country, and they score a touchdown to cover the spread in the final, waning seconds of the game. Their post-game win expectancy in that game against Boise State was 38%. The week before that, they took on UNLV. They won by 7. Their post-game win expectancy against UNLV, 19%. The week before that, they took on Utah State, a game they trailed most of the game. They won by 3. Their post-game win expectancy in that game, 11%. That is wild. They have had a 38% chance, 19% chance, and 11% chance to win the last 3 weeks respectively, and they've won all 3. The odds of them winning all 3 of those games is 0.8%. 0.8%. Less than 1% chance that they win all 3 of those games. My point being is this team could very, very easily, if things shook out the way they should have, statistically, they could have 4 losses. This team could be 5-4 taking on 4-5 San Jose State. We're a play away each game from that happening, right? So that is why the line is a pick'em, right? Now let's look at the spot. That's not even factoring in the spot. That's just how these teams have played lately. San Jose State has been playing better football. Fresno State's been getting very fortunate. So the spot, Fresno State the last 2 weeks, both of the last 2 weeks, they were down to the wire, right? Played these full 60-minute games. It could have gone either way. San Jose State, on the other hand, coming off of a bye, they were rolling off of 3 straight wins, dominating opponents. They're well rested. They have confidence. And this is a huge game for them for the same reason that it was for Central Florida in my earlier pick. They need 2 wins out of the final 3 games to get bowl eligible. If they win this game, all they need is one of the final 2. Big deal for a program like San Jose State. Getting bowl eligible matters. So to me, that's a big positive. Fresno State, on the other hand, they have all the pressure on them to win this game. They're 8-1. They're supposed to win the game, right? And then we look at injuries. Mikey Keene, the quarterback for Fresno State, he is not even close to 100% healthy. And he is a huge part of their offense. Last week, he started the game already with an injury. He had a knee brace on. He was hit multiple times in the leg. He was leveled in that game multiple times. By the end of the game, he barely was able to limp off the field. Then, at the end of the game, the last throw he made, he threw the ball in his shoulder. He was grabbing his throwing shoulder like he had popped it out of socket, like it was just hanging there. And so, you have, this knee, he had an ankle, his arm, all these things. The guy's not near 100%. At best, he's going to be 70% this week. And I think he plays, but I think he's 70%. And without Mikey Keene 100%, I just don't know what this offense has. Malik Sherrod, the running back for Fresno, he's good, but this is, again, one of the least explosive running teams in the country. They just don't run the ball all that explosively. It's very kind of dink and dunk and short runs. Mikey Keene is what makes this offense go. So you have an injured quarterback. You have a bad spot. You have San Jose State trending in the right direction and Fresno State being very, very lucky the last couple weeks. To me, you look at that, and then you look at, again, what's the market telling us? The market is telling us that San Jose State is the side, right? Are these lines, when you see San Jose State, a 4-5 team, as a 1-point favorite, at home against a Fresno State team who's 8-1, am I going to be 100% picking that game? No. But in the long run, taking the San Jose State side, taking the Central Florida side is going to be profitable, especially in college football where crazy things happen, right? I just don't see a world, and I've not seen it in the 15 years I've been in this industry, where you take the side of Oklahoma State as a short road favorite or Fresno State as a short road favorite or a pick 'em, and you win in the long run. It just doesn't happen. If that happened, everybody would be a profitable bettor, right? It's the simple play. So give me San Jose State and the Spartans. I got them at a pick 'em. I believe they currently sit -1. So we can call it -1 for grading purposes. But go ahead and take them. I would take them anything up to -2. If you can get -115 or better, I would take -115 before I would take -2. So use best judgment on math, right? Like, get the best number in terms of money line versus the spread. Don't lay 2 if you can lay -115. Honestly, those are my probably 2 favorite plays of the week. They're 2 of my more liked plays of this season. I think they're going to both win. I think, like I said, Central Florida is going to win outright, and I think San Jose State's going to win this game by at least 7 points. Both those teams are due for losses, and both these teams are due for wins. Looking at our third best investment opportunity, we are going to go to the ACC, where the Pittsburgh Panthers are going to be taking on the Syracuse Orange. And if you like ugly games, then this is one for you. We have a combined 6 wins between the two teams. And the team I'm going to be looking for, shocker, has the worst record. Syracuse comes in with just 4 wins, and Pittsburgh comes in at 2-7. And yes, they are coming off 3 straight losses. So naturally, I've got to go right back to them in this spot, right? 2 things I got going for them, though, in this spot. Number 1, they have the far better defense. And number 2, they have the better quarterback. So you got 2 really important things to covering spreads. And so let's look at those couple things and break this game down real quick. And we are going to look to the Pittsburgh side. They are a 3-point favorite in this matchup. So, Syracuse, Garrett Schrader, the quarterback for Syracuse, missed last week with a back injury. Dino Babers came out this week and basically said, he might be out the rest of the season. He's not playing this week, right? So out goes Schrader, who wasn't great to start with, but he's a huge upgrade from who they have after him, because in steps backup quarterback Carlos Del Rio Wilson. And this guy might be the worst Division I quarterback I've ever seen, and I'm not exaggerating. And I've watched Iowa and Minnesota play for years, and I've watched them trot out guys who have no business playing in Division I FBS. And I don't know that I've seen one of those guys. Like Deacon Hill for Iowa this year is better than Carlos Del Rio Wilson. That's how bad this guy is. Versus Boston College in his first career start last week, at home. He was 7 of 17 for 37 yards and 4 interceptions. Did not throw a touchdown. That was a 7.9 QBR, and that's only because QBR takes into account rushing, and he ran some. In all games this year, because he was inserted a few other games earlier in the year, he's 11 for 29. That's just under 38% completion percentage. No touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 2.6 yards per pass. This kid is awful. He's really bad. Like, he's atrocious. Like, you probably could pull a lot of high school quarterbacks right now out, and they'd be better than this kid. When you look at the other side for Pittsburgh, Christian Velix, and I probably butchered his name, overall, he's not been very good, right? But he's had his moments. He led Pittsburgh to an upset of Louisville when they were undefeated. Big win for Pittsburgh, who at the time had one win over Wofford. That was the only one they had. Overall, since Velix took over, this offense for Pittsburgh's been much better. They've been better throwing the ball. They've been better overall moving it. They had no ability to do anything positive whatsoever under their previous quarterback. If you take out the Notre Dame game, so Velix has started 4 games, right? And I'm going to take out the Notre Dame game because that defense is just way beyond his class and this Pittsburgh team's class. That's just not even, that's a data point we don't need to look at because we already know that Notre Dame is way better than Pittsburgh, right? But if you look at the rest of the matchups, the other 3 games, in his 3 starts, 41 for 90. So that's not good, right? 45% completion. But besides that, the rest of the stats look okay. He's throwing for 250 yards a game, just under. 4 touchdowns in those games, only 1 INT. So he's not turning the ball over. He's doing his job. And here's the other thing that's really actually shocking. 8.3 yards per pass. So what that tells me is he isn't the most accurate in terms of down to down, but he's generating some explosive plays. And the thing about Syracuse's defense is they are very prone to busting. I watched them play a couple times this year, watched them play against Clemson, and Clemson basically with Cade Klubnik, who's looked awful for 2 years, lit him up. And there were receivers streaking down the field wide open against the Syracuse defense. So, again, he's playing better, and as a result, Pittsburgh's playing better. You look last week against Florida State, they actually led into the middle of the second quarter, 7-0. Defense was playing really good. They were only down 3 at halftime. It was 10-7. Florida State rattled off 10 straight before halftime, but still, 3-point game. Now, FSU did have 2 of their top wide receivers out, one of them being their best guy in Keon Coleman. But the defense did a very good job of holding Florida State to their lowest output of the season. I mean, that's a Florida State team that had scored 30-plus points in every game this season. And in this matchup against Pittsburgh, they held them to 24-7. Offense wasn't very good, but again, if you look at that output versus a really, really good Florida State team, if you can translate that defensive performance to Syracuse, I think you win this game with ease and cover the 3. Looking at the matchup as well, you have to look at Pittsburgh's defense. What do they do extremely well? And the thing that they do great is stop the run. So that's what they're kind of elite at, right? I don't know that they're elite at anything, but if you put them in a category of very good, the good thing they do well, stop the run, right? Last week against Florida State, FSU and the Seminoles rushed 37 times for 138 yards, just 3.7 yards per carry. In the Notre Dame game, where they lost 58-7, they still only allowed 4.7 yards per carry to the Fighting Irish. The rest of their games, Wake Forest, 4.2 yards per carry. Virginia Tech, 3.4. West Virginia, 3 even. Louisville, 2.4. North Carolina, 2. So they've done a great job against the run. All season, they're allowing less than 3.5 yards per carry. If Syracuse can't run the ball in this spot, which it sounds like they won't be able to, I don't know how they score any offensive points in this game, barring, just some fluke plays, because Del Rio Wilson cannot throw the ball. He's turnover prone, and I just don't see them being able to run the ball on a pretty good Pitt defense when you know they're going to stack the box. Second thing is Narduzzi loves to blitz. He loves to be aggressive, and you have a kid who has thrown 6 interceptions and no touchdowns in his time this year. I could see this being disastrous for the Syracuse offense, right? I don't know if they just don't have another quarterback on the roster. I know this kid was relatively highly touted coming out of high school, but I mean, you might want to look to somebody else. Regardless, they're sticking with him, and I really think Pittsburgh's got a great chance here. You look last thing real quick to back it up as well. Look at the Syracuse defense. Since starting 4-0, here's what they've given up. 31 to Clemson, in a Clemson offense that is below average in terms of SBS standards. 40 to North Carolina, 41 to Florida State, 38 to Virginia Tech. The only decent performance since the 4-0 start was last week against Boston College, and Boston College is a bottom 100 offense. and they still lost at home by 7. This game actually is in Yankee Stadium, so it's in New York, but it's not the Carrier Dome, which I think is a benefit more to Pittsburgh. Not that it's a benefit that they're on the road, but that it's not a true home game for Syracuse. Regardless, I think Pittsburgh's going to have some success here on offense. I think they're going to hit some explosive passes, and I could definitely see them jumping up early, and then you have Syracuse kind of forced to pass the ball with a kid who can't throw. They're not going to be able to run it. They're not going to be able to have any success offensively. Give me Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be an absolute blowout. I wouldn't make the line this. My numbers say Pittsburgh. If you take out Garrett Schrader, I have Pittsburgh as a 5.5-point favorite here. But I think this could be legitimately 21-3, 17-0, 28-10. I don't even know if I could believe really that Syracuse could score 10 points here, barring a defensive score. Pittsburgh takes care of the ball and makes smart decisions and doesn't bust coverages. They're going to win this game going away. Give me Pittsburgh -3 for my third best investment opportunity. Moving on to my fourth investment opportunity. And we will look at the biggest game of the weekend. And we have the number 3 ranked team in the country, the Michigan Wolverines, taking on the number 9 ranked team in the country, the Penn State Nittany Lions. And last time Penn State took on a top 10 opponent who was undefeated this year, it did not go well as they got romped by Ohio State. A late score made the outcome look a little bit more respectable, but anybody who watched that game saw that Penn State was thoroughly dominated by the Buckeyes. So look, I get it, right? Michigan hasn't played a living, breathing soul. I understand that, right? But I think people are a little bit overselling this. Michigan, I've watched them play. They are a unit. They are very, very good on both sides of the ball this year. And I'm not buying that this Penn State team is even remotely in their class. So if you can catch my drift where I'm going on this, I've taken 3 plays that you could argue are very sharp, professional sides where the line's going to move in my favor or already has. This is the one where I'm going to go to the other side because I just don't buy that Penn State's the side here. I just don't. I've watched Michigan play multiple times this year. They are far superior to not only Penn State, but everybody in the country. They are the best team in the country. I don't think it's close. And here's an interesting stat for you. For everybody who keeps saying that Michigan hasn't played anybody. Michigan has 5 wins against teams who currently have a winning record. You know how many Penn State has? 2. So Michigan has 3 more wins against teams with winning records. The only real elite team that Penn State has played on their schedule is Ohio State, and they were not close in that game. They did not have a chance in the fourth quarter, realistically. So to me, I just don't believe, I'm not going to buy that Michigan, oh my gosh, they're stepping up in class. Well, so is Penn State. And the only other time they did that, they shit themselves. You look at that game that Penn State played against Ohio State. They didn't score an offensive touchdown until the final 2 minutes of the game, right? Drew Allar, 18 for 42, 191 yards, 1 touchdown. He threw 4.5 yards per pass. 4.5 yards per pass is awful. I mean, you must be dinking and dunking, and he has a completion percentage under 45%. We're not talking about Pittsburgh or Syracuse. This is Penn State, right? Who's going to play Michigan and trying to stay within a number against Michigan. 30.3 QBR against Ohio State. They could not move the ball. Ohio State's best cover corner didn't even play in that game. Didn't even play. 3.5 yards per play in the game against Ohio State. 4.5 yards per pass, 1.9 yards per rush. They essentially just abandoned the run game at that point. 49 total yards rushing in the game. Penn State was 1 of 16 on third down. 1 of 16, under 10%, under 7%. Horrific. I mean, it was an awful offensive performance, right? They basically gave up and abandoned the run, and they have zero chance of having success being one-dimensional with Drew Allar at quarterback. He's looked a little bit better the last few weeks, but I'm just not buying it. I haven't bought it since the time he got there and took over. I'd really be surprised if at this spot Penn State scored over 13 points. It would surprise me a lot. I see 6 to 10 points from Penn State in this spot. I really do. Then you look at the other side of the ball. Penn State defense. Yes, they're very good stopping the run. And they did that against Ohio State, despite the injuries that Ohio State had. A couple guys played and weren't 100%. A couple guys were out. But, will they be able to do the same thing against Michigan running the ball? Probably something similar, because Michigan hasn't been great running this year at all. Blake Corum hasn't looked the same since the injury. Donovan Edwards hasn't looked the same since injury. Donovan Edwards is averaging like 3 yards per carry. It's weird. Blake Corum is better. He's like 5.5, and Blake Corum has, I think, 16 touchdowns. It wouldn't surprise me if Blake Corum had a big day, because he ran all over him last year. But the thing about it is, you don't have to run the ball against Penn State to beat them, because they are terrible against the pass. Ohio State, the one thing they had success with was throwing the ball. Kyle McCord, who is not a very good quarterback, right? 8.2 yards per pass. 8.2. He was 22 for 35 for 286 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. He threw the ball all over the yard, close to 300 yards in a game that wasn't even close to going over. They moved the ball well on Penn State, throwing the ball. Marvin Harrison Jr. had 11 catches for $162 and a touchdown. No one could stop him. How are you going to cover Roman Wilson in this one? How are you going to cover Blake Corum out of the backfield receiving the ball? Donovan Edwards receiving the ball. What does Michigan do well offensively? That's the more important question. What do they do well this year? I just told you they're not great running the ball, and they're really good offensively. So what do you think they do well? They throw the ball extremely well, right? J.J. McCarthy's averaging 10.5 yards per pass this season. He's completing over 76% of his passes. He's thrown for over 2,100 yards, 18 touchdowns, just 3 picks. To me, what this game is, and I'm not going to break this game down any further, because I think this is a pretty clear breakdown for me. And I'm either dead right, or I'm going to be really wrong. But Michigan is a better version of Ohio State. They have a better quarterback who has improved a lot throwing the ball. The only thing better Ohio State has than Michigan is their number one wide receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr. is significantly better than any wide receiver Michigan has. But Michigan still has good wide receivers. Michigan has a better running back. Michigan has a better offensive line. Michigan has a better quarterback. Michigan has a better defense than Ohio State. And Ohio State's but won by 8. And really should have won by 14. Game was never close. So, the other thing I'll say is I don't think Ohio State's all that great. And I've said that for a while. I have them power rated much lower than number 1. I have them at 5th in my power ratings. So, to me, in this spot, yes, you could say maybe the sign stealing has some bearing on this. I don't think so. I think actually it could have the opposite effect. I think Harborough could use it to motivate his guys, and instead of just going out and winning the game, they go out and whip Penn State's ass. That absolutely could happen, because Harborough doesn't let off the gas pedal anymore. He's just pissed at everybody right now. So if Michigan has a chance to win this game by a lot, they're going to. Penn State's just trying to stay close. Okay? And until James Franklin proves to me that he can do it, until I see something different from Drew Lawler in a big game, I'm taking the Wolverines. This is a spot where I don't care if 99% of the money is on Michigan and the line stays. I actually got this early in the week. I saw it at 3.5, and I threw a max bet on it at 3.5. I then rebet it at 4, and I rebet it at 4.5. I love this play. I think Michigan wins this by 2 touchdowns at least. Give me the Wolverines for my 4th and final best investment opportunity of the week. That's all I've got for this week, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video for my best bets. In the future, I'm going to try to do some breakdowns of the sharp action called the Sharp Report. And I'm going to try to be back tomorrow with that quick video breaking down all the sharp bets of the week from the professional bettors in the community. Hope you guys enjoy. Again, my goal with this is to help you guys become better bettors, to give you better shots to win and give you some picks to maybe improve your sports gambling. And I hope I can do that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about my picks. Let me know what you guys are taking this weekend. And let me know what you'd like me to do. Would you like me to do big game breakdowns? Would you like me just to give my best bets? How did you like these breakdowns? Any constructive criticism is always welcome, and just any comments at all helps the algorithm and helps us get more views and gets our video and content out there. So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the podcast at SlobPod. Subscribe to us on Instagram, Twitter, or X, TikTok, all at SlobPod and at Dylan Lieck. And check out my sports betting website at DylanLieckSports.com, where I write sports articles and give out free sports betting picks as well. Have a great Saturday and good luck on all your college football wagers. I'll try to be back tomorrow with some Sharp Report action and some NFL wagers for this Sunday.